Give up the master bedroom for Maya's office or leave right now.
Richard, the house is mine. Evict them. I own everything.
My name is Brielle Robinson. I'm 62 years old, born and raised on the south side of Chicago, where the L train rattles your windows at 2 a.m. and the smell of someone's mama's cooking is always drifting from an open door. I own Soul Harvest Market. 5 locations across the south side. Places that sell food that tastes like home. Collard greens cooked slow with ham hock. Cornbread with real butter. Gumbo that makes you close your eyes and remember why food is love, made visible. I built it from nothing. From less than nothing. Actually, my husband Marcus died when I was 30. Heart attack, no warning. Just gone between one breath and the next, leaving me with a 5-year-old son named Jamal and bills that multiplied like weeds in a sidewalk crack. I could have given up. Moved back in with my mother. Accepted that life as a young widow with a child meant making do. Surviving instead of thriving. But that's not who Marcus married, and that's not who I raised my son to see. So I worked. Took a job at a catering company, worked festivals on weekends selling plates of food I made in my tiny kitchen. Mac and cheese. Fried chicken. Peach cobbler that people lined up for. Saved every dollar. Learned about business from library books and community classes at the YMCA, started investing in food co-ops, then small commercial properties. Buildings nobody else wanted in neighborhoods people had written off. By the time Jamal graduated high school, I had 3 stores. By the time he finished college, I had 5. Plus rental properties. Plus investments that meant I'd never have to worry about money again. But I didn't change. Still wore my t-shirts and jeans. Still drove my old Honda. Still lived simple because simple felt honest, and honest felt safe. 10 years ago, I bought a brownstone in Bronzeville. Beautiful building, 3 stories. High ceilings. Original woodwork. The kind of place I used to walk past as a girl and dream about living in. I put it in my name. My name only. Everything I owned was in my name because I'd learned early that what you don't control, you can lose. When Jamal got married 5 years ago, I invited them to move in. Him and Maya, his new wife, sweet girl, educated, from a good family on the north side. I thought we'd get along fine. The house was big enough for all of us. They took the 2nd floor, I kept the 3rd. Master bedroom with the best light in the house. Windows that faced east so the sunrise woke me gentle every morning. We lived together. Coexisted, really. I was at the stores most days. They both worked. Tech jobs. Remote. Made good money but not enough for Bronzeville real estate. I thought we were family. Thought sharing my home meant we were building something together. I was wrong. It was a Thursday evening in February, cold enough that the wind off the lake cut through your coat and reminded you winter in Chicago doesn't ask permission. I was making gumbo. My mother's recipe. The one she taught me in her kitchen when I was 8 years old and barely tall enough to reach the stove. Blues played on the radio. B. King. The thrill is gone. Fitting, though I didn't know it yet. Jamal came down from the 2nd floor. Maya behind him. Both of them with that look. The one people get when they've been talking about you and finally worked up the nerve to say it to your face. "Ma," Jamal said. "Can we talk?" I turned down the heat under the pot, wiped my hands on a dish towel. "Of course, baby. What's on your mind?" "It's about the house. About space." "Okay. Maya's business is growing. She needs an office. A real one, not just the corner of the bedroom." "That's wonderful. There's that room on the 2nd floor by the 2nd. That's storage. We need something better, bigger, with good light." I felt something shift. The air getting thinner, the room getting smaller. "What are you saying, Jamal?" He glanced at Maya. She nodded, encouraging him, supporting him in whatever they'd decided together without me. "We've been talking. The master bedroom. Your room. It would be perfect for her studio, great light, plenty of space. You could move downstairs to the first floor. That room's plenty big for one person. The words landed like stones, heavy, cold, sinking. You want me to give up my bedroom? It's not just your bedroom, Ma. It's the house. Our house. Our house. He said it like it was fact. Like the deed in my safe deposit box with my name on it didn't exist. I turned off the stove completely, took off my apron, folded it carefully because my hands needed something to do that wasn't shaking. And if I don't want to move? Silence. The kind that's louder than any answer. Maya spoke for the first time. Her voice quiet, polite, deadly. Maybe it's time to think about what's best for everyone. You've worked so hard. You deserve your own space. Your own place where you can relax, not have to worry about us. Translation: you're in the way. You're the burden. You need to leave. I looked at my son. This man I'd raised alone. Who I'd worked 3 jobs to put through school. Who'd never gone hungry or cold or without, because I made sure of it even when it meant I did. And he stood there, looked me in the eye, and told me to move out of my own house. Ma, it's not personal, Jamal said. It's just practical. We're building something here. We need space to grow. And I'm what? Taking up space? That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, baby? Use your words. Tell me plain. He shifted. Uncomfortable. But not uncomfortable enough to take it back. I'm saying maybe it's time. You've lived here 5 years. That's generous. But Maya and I, we need to move forward. Build our own life. And having you here, as much as we love you, it's just complicated. Complicated. That word. Like I was a problem to be solved instead of the woman who solved every problem he'd ever had. I looked at Maya, waited for her to say something, to disagree, to tell her husband he was wrong. She said nothing, just stood there, silent, complicit. And in that silence, I heard everything I needed to know. I smiled, not a happy smile. The kind of smile that comes when you realize the war's already started and you're the only one who came prepared. All right, I said. You want the master bedroom? It's yours. Relief flooded Jamal's face. Really? Ma, thank you. I knew you'd understand. We'll help you move your stuff downstairs this weekend. No need, I interrupted. I'll be out tonight. Tonight? Ma, you don't have to rush. Take your time. I'm not rushing. I'm just done. I walked upstairs. To my beautiful room with the eastern light and the original crown molding and the view of the street where I'd dreamed of living since I was a girl. Packed my clothes. My Bible. The recipe book my mama left me with her handwriting in the margins. The photo of Marcus from our wedding day when we were both 22 and stupid enough to believe love was enough. Took my important documents, my jewelry, the things that mattered. Left everything else. The furniture, the decorations. All of it could stay. None of it meant anything anymore. I didn't cry. Didn't argue. Didn't make a scene. Just packed my car, set my house key on the kitchen counter next to the pot of gumbo I'd never finish, and left. Drove through Bronzeville at 10 p.m. Past the shuttered shops and the lit windows of people living their lives. Past the church where I'd buried Marcus 32 years ago. Past the original Soul Harvest location where I'd started with nothing and built everything. Checked into a hotel, not a cheap one, a nice one downtown, because I could afford it and I was done pretending I couldn't. Sat in that hotel room. Looked out at Chicago's skyline. At the city that had raised me and broken me and taught me how to build something that lasted. And I made a phone call. Charles? It's Brielle. Sorry to call so late. Miss Robinson, everything okay? Not yet. But it will be. I need you to draw up an eviction notice. For the rental property on King Drive? No. For the brownstone. 47th Street. My house. Pause. Then understanding. Your son? And his wife. I want them out in 30 days. Legal and proper. Everything by the book. Are you sure? That's your family. That's my property. Family is supposed to act like family. What I got tonight was something else. I'll have the papers ready by Monday. Thank you, Charles. I hung up. Sat in the silence of that hotel room, felt something shift inside me. Not grief. Not anger. Just clarity. I'd spent 32 years building an empire for my son, making sure he never struggled the way I had, giving him opportunities I'd never had. And he'd looked at everything I'd built, everything I'd sacrificed, and told me I was in the way. Well, he was about to learn what being in the way really meant. 3 days later, a courier delivered the eviction notice. 30 days to vacate. Signed by my lawyer. Backed by the deed that had my name on it. Just my name. The way it had always been. Jamal called within an hour, his voice panicked, desperate. Ma, what is this? An eviction notice? You can't be serious. I'm very serious. But where are we supposed to go? We can't afford rent in Bronzeville. All our money's been going into Maya's business. That's your problem, not mine. Ma, please. I'm sorry. We messed up. I messed up. Please don't do this. You told me to find my own place. So I did. Now I'm telling you to find yours. This is cruel. This is vindictive. No, baby. Cruel was telling your mother to move out of her own house. Vindictive would be a lot worse than 30 days. Maya got on the phone, crying. Miss Robinson, please, we'll make it right, we'll apologize, we'll do whatever you want. What I want, I said slowly, is for you both to learn that respect isn't optional, that family means something, that you don't dismiss the woman who built the roof you're standing under. I hung up, blocked their numbers, sat in my hotel room eating takeout and feeling, for the first time in days, like I could breathe. That night, I drove past the brownstone, saw the lights on, saw their shadows moving behind the curtains, probably packing, probably panicking, probably finally understanding what they'd done. And I whispered to the cold Chicago night, to the city that made me, to the woman I used to be who would have accepted less. They think I'm leaving broken. They don't know I'm just getting started. Freedom has a sound when you first taste it. The hum of a refrigerator that's only yours. The hiss of morning coffee nobody else will drink. The quiet of a space where nobody's asking you to be smaller so they can feel bigger. I rented a condo in the South Loop. 1 bedroom, 10th floor, windows facing east, so I'd get that sunrise I'd given up when I left the brownstone. Modern building. Clean lines. Nothing like the brownstone with its history and character. But it was mine, paid for with money I'd earned, no shared space, no compromises. No son telling me I was taking up too much room in my own life. I bought new furniture. Not expensive. Just mine. A couch I picked out. A bed nobody else had an opinion about. Dishes in colors I liked. Small things. Personal things. Things that said this space belongs to Brielle and nobody else. The first week was strange. Too quiet. Too empty. I'd spent 37 years with someone else in the house. First Marcus. Then Jamal. Then Jamal and Maya. Now just me. My footsteps, my breathing, my music, my choices. It felt wrong at first. Like I'd abandoned something I was supposed to protect. Like being alone meant I'd failed. But slowly, that feeling shifted. The silence stopped feeling empty and started feeling peaceful. The solitude stopped feeling lonely and started feeling free. I could make gumbo at midnight if I wanted. Could play my music loud. Could leave dishes in the sink without judgment, could exist without performing, without justifying, without shrinking. Peace, when you're used to giving everything away, feels strange at first, almost like guilt, like you're doing something selfish just by taking up your own space. But I was learning. Slowly. that taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's the foundation everything else has to build on. 3 weeks after the eviction notice was served, my phone rang. Late. Almost midnight. A number I'd blocked but somehow still got through. Jamal. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Or maybe just the small part of me that was still his mother and couldn't completely turn off that instinct to respond when your child calls. Ma. His voice was shaking. Raw. Different than the confident tone he'd used when telling me to move out. Jamal. We're struggling. Really struggling. Rent is due, and we're behind. Maya's business isn't making what she thought it would. The clients dried up. We need help. Just a loan. Just until we get back on our feet. A loan. Like the 5 years of free rent in my house wasn't enough. Like everything I'd already given didn't count because they'd burned through it without appreciation. You'll figure it out, I said. My voice calm. Final. Ma, please. I'm asking for help. As your son. And I'm saying no. As your mother. Who taught you better than this? Better than what? Better than using people until they're inconvenient, and then asking them to keep giving anyway. That's not fair. Neither was telling me to move out of my own house. But here we are. I hung up. Blocked the number again. Sat in my quiet condo and felt something I hadn't expected. Not guilt. Not sadness. Just clarity. The certainty that I'd made the right choice. That saying no was sometimes the most loving thing you could do. Because letting people fail is how they learn to stand. And I'd been propping Jamal up so long he'd forgotten how to use his own legs. The next morning I met with Denise, my accountant, woman I'd worked with for 15 years. Sharp, honest, protective of my money in ways I'd stopped being. I want to start something, I told her. A foundation. For women like me. Women like you. Black women over 50 who know how to cook, who have recipes and skills and stories but no capital, no connections, no one betting on them. She pulled out her laptop, started taking notes. What are we talking about? Grants? Microloans? Both. And training. Business classes. Marketing support. Everything I had to figure out on my own. Let's make it easier for the next woman. This is a significant investment, Brielle. You sure about this? I thought about the money I'd spent supporting Jamal, the free rent, the car I'd helped him buy, the wedding I'd paid for, the business ideas I'd funded that never went anywhere. Thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands over the years, poured into a son who'd told me I was in the way. I'm sure. I'm not spending money. I'm planting it. In soil that will actually grow something. We spent 3 hours setting it up, the Soul Table Initiative, named after the kitchen table where my mama taught me to cook, where I'd taught Jamal. Where generations of black women had created magic with whatever ingredients they had. The foundation would provide grants up to $10,000. Business training. Mentorship from women who'd succeeded. A network. A community. Everything I'd needed and built alone. How much are we putting in initially? Denise asked. $500,000. She looked up. That's a lot of capital. That's a lot of women who deserve a chance. We launched it quietly. No press release. No announcement. Just word of mouth in the community. Applications available at my stores. At churches. At senior centers. Within 2 weeks, we had 75 applications. Women with recipes for sweet potato pie and jerk chicken and tamales and lumpia. Women who'd been cooking for families for decades and wanted to cook for profit. Women who reminded me of myself at 30. Widowed, struggling, determined. I read every application myself, chose the first 10 recipients, called them personally to tell them they'd been selected. The joy in their voices, the tears, the disbelief that someone was betting on them, that made it worth every dollar. One woman, Miss Carolyn, 63, cried so hard I thought she might pass out. Nobody ever gave me nothing, she said. I've been working since I was 12, raised 6 kids alone, and now you telling me you gonna help me start my catering business? I'm not giving you anything, Miss Carolyn. I'm investing, because I know you'll make it worth it. I will. I promise you that. I will make you proud. Make yourself proud. That's all that matters. That Saturday, I visited my flagship store. The original Soul Harvest Market on 63rd Street. The one I'd opened 28 years ago with money I'd saved selling plates at festivals. The staff greeted me like always. Warm, genuine. These women were family, more family than my son had been lately. Miss Dorothy, who'd worked for me for 12 years, hugged me tight. You look different, Miss B. Like you sleeping better. I am. Good. You deserve peace. You've been giving and giving to everyone else. Time someone gave to you. I'm giving to myself now. Finally learned that's allowed. She smiled, wise, understanding, about time. I walked through the store, straightened displays, talked to customers, checked inventory. The work I'd been doing for decades. The work that made sense when everything else didn't. One of the stock clerks, a young man named Deshawn, approached me. Miss Robinson? Can I ask you something? Of course. I've been working here 2 years. You've been good to me. Patient. But I see how you treat everybody with respect. Like we matter. Not just as workers but as people. You do matter. Every person here matters. My question is, how'd you learn that? To treat people right even when you didn't have to? I thought about that. About Marcus dying and leaving me alone. About the people who'd helped me when they didn't have to. The customers who'd come back every week. The suppliers who'd extended credit when I was nobody. I learned it by needing it, I said. By remembering what it felt like to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be treated like I didn't matter, and deciding I'd never make anyone else feel that way. He nodded, processing. Your son work here? The question surprised me. Why do you ask? Just wondering. Because you talk about him sometimes. But I never seen him here. Never seen him help. Just wondered if he knew what you built. What you do every day. I felt something crack. The good kind of crack. The kind that lets truth in. He doesn't, I said, but maybe he needs to learn. That night, back in my condo, I sat at my small kitchen table and wrote a letter. Not to Jamal. To myself. Dear Brielle, I wrote. You spent 37 years building a life for other people. For Marcus before he died. For Jamal after. You worked 3 jobs and invested smart and sacrificed everything so your son wouldn't struggle the way you did. And he grew up thinking success was easy. That money appeared. That respect was owed instead of earned. That's not his fault, it's yours. You shielded him from too much, gave him too much, let him believe he deserved things he'd never worked for. But it's not too late. Not for him to learn. Not for you to stop enabling. Not for both of you to become better. You're not giving up on him. You're giving him the gift of struggle, the gift of learning what work means, what respect costs, what family is supposed to be. And if he never learns? If he stays bitter and entitled and convinced you're the villain, then you gave him everything you could, and he chose not to grow. That's on him. Not you. You did your job, you raised him, fed him, loved him, gave him every advantage. Now it's his turn to show he deserves it. Or not. Either way, you're free. Love. Brielle. I folded the letter. Put it in the drawer with my mama's recipe book. A reminder for the days when guilt tried to creep back in. Because I was learning something important. Something it took me 62 years to understand. Teaching people your worth sometimes means walking away long enough for them to miss your light. And I was done dimming myself to make other people comfortable. The light was on now, full brightness, take it or leave it. But I wasn't turning it off ever again. 3 weeks after I hung up on Jamal's request for money, they showed up at my store, not calling first, just appeared. standing outside Soul Harvest Market on 63rd Street like they'd been standing there working up courage for hours. It was a Tuesday morning. Early. I was inside checking inventory before we opened. Saw them through the window. Jamal in jeans and a wrinkled shirt. Maya in leggings and a hoodie. Both looking thinner. Tired. Different. The pride was gone. That's what I noticed first. The way they held themselves. Smaller. Uncertain. Like people who'd learned the hard way that the world doesn't care about your feelings. I unlocked the door, stood in the entrance, didn't invite them in, just waited. Jamal spoke first. "Ma, can we talk? We talking now. Please. We were wrong. So wrong. About everything. About the house. About you. About what matters. We see that now. You see it now. Yes. And we're sorry. We're so sorry. We want to make it right. Tell us how to make it right." I looked at my son. This man I'd raised, who looked more like his father every year, who had Marcus's eyes and his smile but hadn't learned his character yet. "You don't need to talk," I said. "You need to work." He blinked. Confused. "Work? You want stability? Earn it. You want respect? Show you understand what it costs. Starting Monday, both of you report here. Soul Harvest Market. 7 a.m. To do what? Maya, you'll work the front counter. Customer service. Jamal, you're in the warehouse. Stocking. Inventory. Loading trucks. Whatever needs doing." Their faces changed, insulted, embarrassed. Like I'd asked them to do something beneath them. "Ma, I have a degree. I worked in tech. I can't just stock shelves." "You can't or you won't? It's not about that. It's just, that's not my skill set." "Then you'll learn a new skill set. You want my help? You want back in my life? This is the price. Show up. Do the work. Learn what I've been doing for 30 years while you thought it was beneath you." Maya spoke, her voice small. "What if we say no? Then you say no. And we're done. Permanently. Your choice." They looked at each other, having a whole conversation without words, weighing options, calculating whether their pride was worth more than their survival. "We'll be here," Jamal said finally. "Monday. 7 a.m. Don't be late." That Monday, I arrived at 6:30. Wanted to be there first. Wanted to see them walk in. Wanted to see if they'd actually show up or if pride would win after all. At 6:55, they pulled up. Old car. Not the least BMW they used to drive. Something used. Something they could afford. They came inside, both wearing jeans and old t-shirts, trying to look the part, trying to fit in. I handed them name tags, plain white labels with their names written in marker, the kind every employee wore, the kind that said you weren't special, you were staff. Jamal stared at his. "Really? Everyone wears one. You want special treatment?" "No. No, it's fine." I showed Maya to the front counter, introduced her to Miss Dorothy, who'd been running the register for 12 years. "This is Maya. She's training with you today. Show her everything. Don't go easy on her." Dorothy smiled. Warm but knowing. "Don't worry, Miss B. I'll take good care of her." Then I took Jamal to the warehouse, where Deshawn was already organizing deliveries, where the real work happened, the work nobody sees, the work that keeps everything running. Jamal's going to be working back here, show him how to receive shipments, stock shelves, rotate inventory, all of it. Deshawn nodded. "Welcome to the team, man." I left them to it. Went to my office. Pretended to work while actually watching through the security cameras, seeing how they'd handle it. If they'd quit by lunch or actually try. Jamal struggled immediately. The boxes were heavy. 50 pounds of rice, 40 pounds of flour. He wasn't used to physical labor. His tech job had been all keyboards and screens. I watched him lift wrong. Watch Deshaun correct him. Show him how to use his legs instead of his back. How to stack properly. How to move efficiently. Watched my son, who'd told me to move out of my own house, learn to do the work I'd been doing since before he was born. Maya had it different, but not easier. The counter was constant. Customers. Questions. Problems. No breaks. No time to check your phone. Just service. Patience. Dealing with whoever walked through that door. I watched her fumble with the register, watched her apologize to customers, watched Miss Dorothy gently correct her, over and over, patient but firm. At noon, Maya was restocking a display, carrying a pot of greens from the kitchen to the hot food section, lost her grip, dropped it, greens and pot liquor everywhere, all over the floor, all over her shoes. She just stood there, staring at the mess. Tears starting. Miss Dorothy appeared with a mop. Didn't scold. Didn't lecture. Just handed Maya the mop and said, "Baby, we all spill something eventually. Clean it up. Learn from it. Keep going." That simple kindness. That lack of judgment. I saw something crack in Maya's face, the defensive wall she'd built, the pride that made her think this work was beneath her. She took the mop, cleaned up, apologized to customers, got back to work. By the end of week 1, they were both exhausted. I could see it. The way they moved. Slower. Sorer. Like people discovering muscles they'd never used. But they showed up. Every day. On time. Did the work. Week 2, something shifted. Jamal started asking questions. Not defensive ones. Real ones. About inventory systems, about supplier relationships, about how to predict demand and minimize waste. Deshaun was impressed, told me at lunch. "Your son's actually trying, Miss B. Thought he'd quit by now. But he's asking good questions. Learning. That's because he finally hit bottom. Had to learn the ground is solid once you stop being afraid to touch it." Maya was changing too. I watched her with customers, especially the elderly ones, the way she'd slow down for them, help them read labels, carry their bags to their cars. One afternoon, Miss Thelma, one of our regulars, was at the counter, paying for her groceries, her hands shaking. "Arthritis bad today." Maya noticed. Didn't rush her. Didn't show impatience. Just waited, helped her count out exact change. Then insisted on walking her to her car, even though it was busy. When she came back, I was standing by the counter. "That was kind," I said. She reminded me of my grandmother. Before she died, how I wished people had been more patient with her. This work will teach you that, if you let it, that every customer is somebody's grandmother, somebody's mama, somebody who matters. By week 4, they were both coming in early. Staying late. Not because I asked, but because they were starting to care, to take pride in the work, to understand what we were building. One night, closing time, Jamal was finishing inventory. I was in my office doing paperwork. He knocked on the open door. "Ma? Can I say something?" "Always." He came in. Sat down. Looked tired but different. Clearer somehow. "I didn't see it before. Your work. What you built. I thought it was just stores. Just business. Just money. It's not? No, it's community. It's the way Miss Dorothy knows everyone's name. The way Deshaun treats vendors with respect. The way people come here not just for food but for connection, for dignity." He paused, gathering courage. "And I thought success meant not working. Meant getting to a place where you could stop, but watching you, watching everyone here, I see that work is the point. That serving people with respect is the goal. That making someone's day better, because you showed up and cared, that's what matters." I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness yet, but the beginning of it. The seed. The world doesn't owe you comfort, baby. It owes you the chance to earn it, and you're finally learning how. Will you ever forgive me? For what I said? For asking you to leave? I thought about that. About forgiveness. About what it costs and what it's worth. I'm working on it. Some days are easier than others. But I see you trying. I see you changing. That matters. What else do I need to do? Keep showing up, keep learning, keep treating people with the respect I should have gotten from you in my own house. I will. I promise. Don't promise, just do it. Every day. Until it's not effort anymore. Until it's just who you are. He nodded. Left my office. Went back to work. And I sat there, in the quiet, watching through the window as my son finished his inventory. As Maya wiped down the counter one last time. As they both did the work. Finally. Honestly. They had a long way to go. This wasn't redemption yet. Just the beginning of understanding. But it was something. A foundation. The first bricks of rebuilding what had been broken. And maybe, if they kept showing up, kept learning, kept earning instead of expecting, we'd find our way back to each other. Not to what we were, but to something better. Something built on respect instead of obligation, on choice instead of blood. Something earned. The only kind of relationship that ever really lasts. 6 months into working at Soul Harvest Market, Maya knocked on my office door. She looked different. Confident but not arrogant. Present in a way she hadn't been before. Miss Robinson? Can I talk to you about something? Of course. Sit. She Saturday pulled out a folder. Notes and sketches and what looked like a business plan. The kind of preparation that showed real thought. Real care. I've been thinking about community engagement. About how we serve people beyond just selling them groceries. I'm listening. What if we did a street festival? Here in Bronzeville, celebrating food and culture and community, free for everyone. Local vendors, music, art. Call it the Taste of Bronzeville Fair. She laid out the folder. Showed me her vision. Vendor spots, entertainment schedule, budget projections, partnership opportunities with local organizations. It was good. Really good. The work of someone who'd been paying attention, who understood what Soul Harvest was really about. This is impressive, Maya. Thank you. I've been learning. From you. From Miss Dorothy. From everyone here. About what food means to people, how it's not just fuel, it's memory, it's connection. It's home. What do you need from me? Permission. And maybe some funding. I can get sponsors, but the seed money would help. I'll pay it back. Every cent. I just want to prove I can do this. I looked at my daughter-in-law. This woman who'd stood silent when her husband told me to leave my own house. Who'd learned through hard work and humble service what actually mattered. You have my permission. And the funding. But you don't pay it back. You pay it forward. Make this something that serves the community. Make it something that lasts. Her eyes got wet. I will, I promise. I know you will, that's why I'm saying yes. She left my office, and I sat there feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not for myself. For them. For the possibility that people could change, that consequences could teach. That family could be rebuilt on better foundations. The festival took 3 months to plan. Maya worked on it constantly. During breaks. After shifts, nights and weekends, Jamal helped. Called vendors, secured permits, handled logistics. They were building something together, not for money, for purpose. For the community that had welcomed them even though they'd started as entitled strangers who thought they were better than the work. The Taste of Bronzeville Fair happened on a Saturday in September. Perfect weather, blue sky, cool breeze off the lake. The kind of Chicago day that makes you remember why you love this city despite everything. They'd closed off 2 blocks of 47th Street. Set up vendor tents. A stage for performances. Tables and chairs. Decorations in African colors. Music already playing before the official start time. I arrived early. Watched them set up. Jamal directing volunteers. Maya greeting vendors. Both of them working like people who understood that events like this succeed or fail based on details. On caring enough to get everything right. By noon, hundreds of people had shown up. Neighbors, families, kids running between tents. Elderly folks sitting in the shade, church groups, students, the whole community turning out. The air smelled like fried catfish and jerk chicken and sweet potato pie and second chances. Like everything good about Bronzeville concentrated into 2 city blocks. I walked through the crowd, stopped at vendor tents, talked to people I'd known for decades. Women from the Soul Table Initiative selling their products, catering companies, bakeries, food trucks. All the dreams we'd helped fund now feeding the community. Miss Carolyn was there, the woman who'd cried when I told her she'd gotten the grant. She had a full tent, lined 10 people deep, selling her Caribbean food. "Miss Robinson," she said when she saw me, "look at this. Look at what you made possible. I didn't make this. You did. I just believed in you. That's what I mean. You believed when nobody else would. Now look, I got employees. I got orders. I got a future. All around us, that same story. Women who'd been invisible. Who'd been told they were too old or too late or too something. Now thriving. Now visible. Now mattering." Around 3 p.m., they announced speeches. Community leaders, organizers, thank yous, and recognition. Then Jamal took the stage. I wasn't expecting it. Hadn't known he was speaking. Saw him walk up with note cards, nervous, genuine. He cleared his throat. The microphone amplified everything. His breathing, his uncertainty, his courage. "I want to thank everyone for coming, for supporting this event, for being the kind of community that shows up for each other." Applause. People settling in to listen. But mostly I want to talk about my mother, Brielle Robinson. My heart stopped. The crowd turned, found me standing near the back. 6 months ago, I didn't understand what she'd built. I saw stores and money and success, but I didn't see the work. The sacrifice, the 30 years of showing up every single day, of treating people with dignity, of building something that mattered. His voice cracked. He paused, gathered himself. I thought success meant not working, meant getting to a place where you could stop, where you could relax and let other people do the hard stuff. And I treated my mother like she'd reached that point, like she was supposed to step aside and let me have what she'd built. The crowd was silent now, completely focused. I was wrong. So wrong. And I hurt the person who'd given me everything. Made her feel like she was in the way in her own house, in her own life. Tears on his face now, not hidden, not apologized for. She could have given up on me, could have written me off, could have said I was too far gone to save. Instead, she gave me something harder. She gave me the chance to earn my way back. To learn what work means, what respect costs, what family is supposed to be. He looked right at me, across the crowd, across everything that had broken and was slowly healing. "This woman here taught me that real success isn't money. It's making others feel full, not just in their stomachs but in their souls. It's building something that serves, that uplifts, that lasts beyond you." The crowd stood, applause rolling through like thunder. But I barely heard it. Just saw my son. This man I'd raised. Finally understanding. Finally getting it. After the speeches, after the performances, after most of the crowd had gone home, Maya found me. She was exhausted, happy, fulfilled in a way I'd never seen. She handed me a small box, wrapped simply. No card. "What's this?" "Just open it." Inside was a brass keychain. Simple. Elegant. Engraved with words that made my throat tight. "Home is wherever you're respected." I looked at her. This woman who'd been part of my deepest hurt, who'd learned and grown and become someone different. Someone better. Thank you, I managed. Thank you for not giving up on us. For teaching us the hard way. The right way. For showing us that love without respect isn't love at all. We stood there. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Not fixed. Not perfect. But healing. Finally healing. That night, I drove through Chicago. Past my condo. Past the brownstone I'd left. Past the stores I'd built. Through the South Side where I'd learned everything about survival and strength. The city lights turned everything golden, made even the broken parts look beautiful, made everything look like it might be okay. I thought about revenge. About how it had tasted bitter at first. How I'd wanted them to hurt the way they'd hurt me. How I'd wanted them to understand loss and dismissal and what it felt like to be unwanted. But somewhere along the way, revenge had melted, transformed, become something else. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Not the easy kind where you pretend nothing happened and go back to how things were, but the earned kind. The kind baked slowly over months of showing up and doing hard work and learning humility. The kind that doesn't erase the past but builds something better on top of it. I smiled. For the first time in months. A real smile. Not bitter. Not forced. Just genuine peace. My son had stood in front of hundreds of people and told the truth. Had owned his mistakes. Had honored me publicly in a way that cost him pride and ego. Maya had built something beautiful. Had learned to serve. Had become someone I could respect. And me? I'd learned that walking away isn't giving up. That saying no is sometimes the most loving thing you can do. That you can't save people from themselves, but you can give them the tools to save themselves if they're willing. I pulled over. Sat in my car on 47th Street. Looked at the keychain Maya had given me. Home is wherever you're respected. For 32 years, I'd thought home was wherever my son was. Wherever my family lived. But I'd been wrong. Home was wherever I was valued. Wherever my work was seen. Wherever I didn't have to make myself small to fit. And finally, after 6 months of hard lessons and harder work, my son and daughter-in-law were learning to build that kind of home. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Because they'd finally understood what they'd almost lost. I started the car, drove toward my condo, my space, my peace. Tomorrow I'd go to the store. Tomorrow I'd check on the Soul Table initiative. Tomorrow I'd keep building what mattered. But tonight I'd rest. In the knowledge that consequences teach. That love can survive hurt if both sides are willing to work. That family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about respect. Hard-earned. Carefully maintained. Built brick by brick through showing up and choosing each other every single day. That was home. Finally. After 62 years of searching, I'd found it. 3 years after the taste of Bronzeville Fair, I sat in my condo on a Tuesday morning drinking coffee and reading the Chicago Tribune. There was an article about Soul Harvest Market, about how we'd expanded to 6 locations, about the jobs we'd created for older Black women and the training programs we offered, about how we'd become more than a grocery store, how we'd become a movement. The article featured Jamal, called him a visionary in community-centered business, praised his logistics innovations, his commitment to fair wages, his leadership style that prioritized people over profit. It made me smile, not because of the recognition, but because 3 years ago he'd been a man who thought work was beneath him. Now he was building systems that honored workers, creating opportunities for people society had written off. Maya was in the article too, director of community outreach. Her food fairs had expanded across the South Side. Monthly events that brought thousands of people together. That created spaces for connection and celebration and belonging. The woman who'd once stood silent while her husband told me to leave had become an advocate for community, for service, for using whatever platform you had to lift others. I wasn't in the article much, just mentioned as founder. The woman who'd started it all 35 years ago selling plates at festivals. That was fine, better than fine. I'd spent 3 decades building. Now it was time to let the next generation lead. My mornings were different now, slower, gentler. I'd wake with the sunrise, make coffee, sit by my window watching Chicago wake up. Then I'd bake. Not for business, just for pleasure, for muscle memory, for the meditative rhythm of mixing and kneading and watching something transform in heat. I'd give away most of what I made, to neighbors, to the community center, to anyone who looked like they needed something sweet. Afternoons were for writing. I'd started a memoir 2 years ago. Taste of Resilience. The story of building a business and a life from nothing. Of losing everything and choosing yourself. Of teaching hard lessons with harder love. The first line read, "Sometimes, losing your family is how you teach them to find themselves." It was true, every word. I'd lost Jamal when he told me to leave. Lost the illusion of who he was. Lost the relationship built on my giving and his taking. But in that loss, he'd found himself. Found work ethic and humility and purpose. Found the man his father would have been proud of. The book was finished now, published by a small press in Chicago. Nothing fancy, just honest, raw, real. I donated all the profits to the Soul Table Initiative. Let other women benefit from my story the way I'd had to benefit from my own mistakes. Every last Sunday of the month, we had dinner together, not at my condo, not at a restaurant, at the Englewood Community Center where Jamal and Maya had started volunteering as part of their redemption. It had become tradition. Family dinner. Extended family, including Miss Dorothy and Deshawn and Miss Carolyn, and all the women from the Soul Table Initiative who'd become more family than some people born into it. Maya cooked. Always gumbo. My mama's recipe that I'd taught her. She'd learned it perfectly. Made it with love and patience and the kind of care that can't be faked. Jamal set up. Tables and chairs. Decorations. Made sure everyone had what they needed. Served the seniors first. The elders. The people who'd lived long enough to deserve honor. I mostly watched. Participated but also observed. Saw how they'd changed. How they moved through space differently. How they treated people with genuine respect instead of performance. This Sunday, the community center was packed. 50 people, maybe more. The usual crowd, plus some new faces, women from the latest Soul Table cohort. Their families, people who'd heard about the dinners and wanted to be part of something real. We ate together, passed bowls family style, talked and laughed and told stories. The kind of gathering that feels like church without religion, like home without walls. After dinner, during cleanup, Jamal stood up, tapped his water glass with a spoon. Got everyone's attention. "I want to say something." The room quieted, everyone turning to listen. 5 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I told my mother, the woman who'd given me everything, that she needed to leave her own house. That she was in the way of my life, of my plans. He paused. Looked at me. Eyes clear. Honest. She could have destroyed me for that. Could have written me off. Could have said I was too far gone. Instead, she gave me something harder. She gave me the truth. And the chance to earn my way back. Maya stood beside him. Took his hand. We learned what work means, what community means, what it costs to build something real, and we're still learning, every single day. He raised his glass. Water, not wine, simple, appropriate, to my mother. The woman who taught me that strength doesn't shout, it just keeps standing. Who showed me that love sometimes means walking away until people learn to walk right. To Brielle, the room echoed. Glasses raised. Genuine appreciation. I stood. Not to give a speech. Just to acknowledge. To be present in my own honoring. Thank you, baby. And don't you forget it. Laughter. Applause. the moment passing into the next one, dinner continuing, life moving forward. Later, after everyone had gone home, after the community center was clean and locked up, the three of us sat on the front steps, just sitting, being together in the Chicago night. "Ma," Jamal said. I never asked, "Are you happy? Really happy? Not just okay, but fulfilled?" I thought about that, about happiness, about what it meant at 67 after a lifetime of building and losing and rebuilding. "I'm at peace," I said. "Which is better than happy. Happy comes and goes. Peace stays. Roots down. Becomes who you are." "Do you forgive us?" Maya asked. "Completely? Or is there still hurt?" "There's always going to be a scar. What you did, what you said, it cut deep. Scars don't disappear. But they also don't hurt forever. And sometimes they remind you of what you survived. What you're strong enough to heal from. So that's yes?" "That's yes. I forgive you, not because time passed or because you apologized, but because you changed, because you proved that consequences can teach, that people can grow if they're willing to do the work." We sat in comfortable silence, three people who'd broken and rebuilt, who'd learned that family isn't about blood or obligation, it's about choosing each other, every day, through work and respect and showing up even when it's hard. 5 years after that night in the brownstone, after the eviction notice and the hard lessons and the slow rebuilding, Soul Harvest Market had become Soul Harvest Market and Kitchen Co-op. We'd expanded beyond grocery stores, added training kitchens, culinary scholarships for young people from the South Side, partnership with urban farms, a whole ecosystem of food and community and opportunity. The new sign outside our flagship location read, "Food that feeds the soul and the future." Jamal and Maya were managing partners now, not because they were my family, but because they'd earned it, proven themselves through years of work and commitment and genuine care for the community. I'd stepped back, not retired, just shifted. Let them lead. Let the next generation take what I'd built and make it their own. My days were simple now. Baking, writing, spending time with the women from Soul Table, watching their businesses grow, seeing them transform from invisible to undeniable. At 67, I finally understood something I'd been learning my whole life. My story wasn't about revenge. It was never about revenge, even when I was angriest. Even when I wanted them to hurt the way they'd hurt me. It was about restoration. About reclaiming yourself when people try to diminish you, about teaching through consequence instead of just accepting disrespect, about building something so beautiful that betrayal becomes irrelevant. One quiet evening, sitting in my condo with jazz playing soft and the city lights painting my walls gold, I opened my journal. The one I'd been keeping since that night I left the brownstone. I read through it. All the entries. The anger, the hurt, the clarity, the growth, mine and theirs. And I wrote one final entry, the bookend to a story that started with loss and ended with peace. The day my son told me to leave my house, he set me free. Free from the obligation to keep giving to people who didn't value it. Free from the belief that being a good mother meant accepting disrespect. Free to choose myself. Finally, after 62 years of choosing everyone else, I'd turned pain into power, betrayal into belonging, loss into legacy. And in the process, I'd taught my son what his father never got the chance to teach him. That work is dignity. That service is strength. That real success is measured in the lives you touch, not the money you make. That family love should never be based on possessions or convenience or what someone can give you. It should be based on respect, on showing up, on valuing each other's humanity enough to treat it with care. I closed the journal, set it on the shelf with all the others. Years of entries, years of living and learning and becoming. Tomorrow I'd go to the store, check on the women in the training program, have lunch with Miss Dorothy, who was finally retiring after 40 years of food service work. Tomorrow I'd live the life I'd built, the one I'd almost lost, the one I'd reclaimed by walking away and teaching the hardest lesson love can give. But tonight? Tonight I'd just Saturday, in my space, my peace, my hard-won freedom. And I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was real. I'd spent 67 years learning one truth. One essential, undeniable truth. You can't pour from an empty cup. Can't give from a depleted well. Can't love others if you don't first love yourself enough to demand respect. That was the lesson. The one I'd finally learned. The one I'd taught my son by walking away instead of staying small. And it was the lesson I'd keep teaching. Through the stores. Through the foundation. Through the book. Through every woman who needed someone to show her that she mattered, that her work had value, that she deserved to take up space without apology. That was legacy, not buildings or money, but changed lives, transformed communities. People who learned to stand tall because someone stood tall first and showed them it was possible. I turned off the lights, got ready for bed. Tomorrow would come whether I was ready or not. But for the first time in 67 years, I was ready for whatever came next. Because I'd finally learned to stand in my own light. And nothing could dim it ever again. If this story touched you, if you've ever been dismissed by family or told you were in the way, share it. Because the truth is simple but powerful. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Not forever, but long enough for people to learn your value. To understand what they lost. To grow into people worthy of standing beside you. Subscribe for more stories about everyday people who refused to stay small, who chose themselves, who turned pain into power and built legacies that last. Because that's the real victory. Not revenge, but becoming so undeniably yourself that disrespect can't touch you anymore.